Welcome to the Good News Report. Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela D. Marshall, your host. So happy that you can be a part of the show with us this morning. I am thrilled to welcome as our guest today Malik Moore. Malik is a candidate for Florida House District 21. Malik, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Happy to be here.
Malik, we are excited to see all of the candidates that are in this race. There are four, five,
Five.
five candidates in the race. Excited from the standpoint that I'm pleased to see that there are folks who are willing to step up and work and make themselves available to participate in this wonderful democracy that we have. For you as a candidate, let me just give a slight introduction for you. You worked for the person who had the seat before.
Yes.
If you look at the pool of candidates that are there, and it's five of you, how are you feeling in this moment? Early voting starts tomorrow. The primary is August 18th. I just want to jump right into that right away. How you feeling? How you doing?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. We're a little tired, but we're still working. I got in this race in September of last year, so we've been running for a while, but I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited to pour back into the community and the district that raised me, that gave me an opportunity, that made me who I am. Excited to really hit the ground running on day one, addressing the issues of District 21, districts that are issues that I've lived personally. The fact that we have roads that are in disrepair, the fact that we have lack of economic development in East Gainesville, where we don't have access to necessarily the freshest produce or a grocery store, gun violence, utilities, affordability, dealing with those issues that are everyday issues. And so I'm really excited. I think this campaign has been one of the leaders in a lot of these conversations, and I think my experience allows us to do that.
Hey, Malik, have you had a chance to go to some of your opponents and say, hey, look, dude, can we come together on this? I got this one. I'll be with you on the next one. Can we get some unity here and all stand together and we spread this out because there's so many positions to be had, so many opportunities for people to run. Have there ever been any conversation, anybody having that kind of conversation with anybody?
I don't believe so. I know that there were people in the community early on that asked us all to kind of sit down and have that conversation. And I've always said I remain willing to have that conversation when we were first getting started, because I believe that like I said, I believe everybody should have the right to run. Everybody should, put their name in the hat if they feel that they're the best person. But I also, as you said, we need some unity and just trying to figure out how we all work together, and even if in different facets to address some of the issues that we all care about. So that conversation has not happened to my knowledge, but I think at this point we're here now, and so we just have to run our race and see what happens.
Well, I will encourage, and I've invited everyone who is a candidate
Mhm.
for District 21 to be a part of the conversation here on the Good News Report. Not a debate, not anything except to allow people to get to know who you are as a person before the candidate. Uh,
Absolutely.
you, as you said, you've been working in the community for a while as a young man. How old are you now?
I'm 27.
Well, congratulations on doing what you're doing. And let me just say this for a lot of people who may think of you all as being young. I want to remind everybody that Dr. King was doing what he was doing at that age and younger.
Yep.
At the time that he won the Nobel Peace Prize, he was the youngest person to ever win the Nobel Peace Prize. So get busy, Malik,
Oh
so
yeah.
that you can win a Nobel Peace Prize because the The harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. And so
Absolutely.
thank you for taking the lead in that. Now, at 27 years old, let me ask you this question. What is it that you are doing, or how do you think you are impacting the fact that we have a gap in people your age voting? How are you motivating people your age to vote?
Well, I think, number one, it starts with this old phrase that you can't be what you can't see, and I think just the fact that we have young people, myself included, running for office, I think makes a difference. I think it shows people my age and younger that this is actually possible. But on top of that, it starts with getting in the community. As I said, I've been working in my community since I was a teenager, and so a lot of the people that I grew up with, some of whom have their own children now, can say, hey, we actually know this person. We've seen him work. And so, and to now see him running for office, it makes it a little personal. It makes that personal connection, whereas it's not, you feel connected to the person. You can understand, you see their story, you see where they come from, and it makes it seem that a lot more is possible, a lot more is at your fingertips than may have been previously before. I'm from Sugar Hill at East Gainesville. And so to be able to pour back into my community. And it's not even just young people. I've been stopped on the street. We're walking the dog, and some of our neighbors who are older who said, I've never been registered to vote, but I know you, and I've seen you, and I've seen you work, and so I'm registering to vote so I can vote for you. That type of energy, is one that is multi generational, and I think that it's great to see.
And let me just encourage everyone, if you are registered to vote, I plead with you to exercise your right to vote. It is
Absolutely.
critical. I am not here to tell you what candidate to vote for. I am here to tell you that you need to vote, and you need to gather everybody that you know who is registered to vote to go to the polls and cast your ballot. And, Malik, sometimes people feel like, well, I don't know any candidates, but and you know that you drive down the streets and you um, participate in the things that are available in your community. And all of that has to do with public policy. Malik, you
Absolutely.
have worked with State Representative Yvonne Henson. How long did you work with her?
So I worked on her campaign and advised her office, but I was a chief of staff for State Representative Diane Hart for 6 years.
Okay, but you worked on Yvonne Henson's campaign.
I did.
Well, how does it feel as a candidate as opposed to working on the campaign?
It's very different. I'm used to being behind the scenes. I'm a policy nerd. I tell people that all the time, and so this is different when your name is on the palm card or on the yard sign, or your face is the one on TV. It's a shocker. When I first launched this campaign last year, to see my face and my name on just on TV 20 was a lot, and people start calling you. I just saw you on TV, and it's different. You definitely step into the public light a lot more, but it's what comes with service, and so I'm excited and honored to do it.
You say that you are a public policy nerd.
I am,
I'm
yes.
happy to hear that because many people don't even understand public policy when they run for office. People don't understand public policy when they're voting. Let's just talk
Absolutely.
about public policy.
Okay.
And the significance and the importance of understanding this process of getting law bills and laws changed.
Yeah, I mean, so this is why I've been saying on this campaign that experience is going to matter. Because we've seen that there's a lot of fights coming out of Tallahassee. If you're in Gainesville, you know GRU. There have been things that have impacted our local government's ability to govern. We have a property tax initiative coming up in November. There are things that are happening that require experience, and especially public policy experience. Being a chief of staff, there are a couple thousand bills filed in the Florida session every year. And as a chief of staff, we had to read majority of those. If they were coming through our committees, if they were going to be on the floor, we had to read them and know what they were about. And I've seen how the difference between a comma can change the entire meaning of legislation, change the outcome of legislation, how being unclear or vague in your language can have detrimental impacts on communities. And that's something that's important. We can't afford to have someone who is just kind of going up there on a whim and not truly writing something or passing something or even supporting legislation that hasn't been fully vetted and thought through. It is a very thoughtful process if you're doing it the right way. I've seen members. I've been, with member staff up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, reading through legislation, marking up stuff, knowing where to ask questions, knowing what questions to ask or how to ask certain questions. Because a lot of times, we're Democrats. We are in the super minority. So a lot of times when you're asking certain questions, it's not necessarily to get clarification on something or to learn more information, is to build a record, because we know that a lot of legislation that comes out of Florida is going to end up in courts. And so you have to be able to know how to strategically build that record so that someone can come behind you and file a lawsuit. There are all these different nuances that have to be taken into consideration when it comes to public policy.
So as you mentioned, Democrats in Tallahassee are a super minority.
Yes.
So how do you propose working across lines? How do you work with colleagues who disagree with you while still effectively representing your constituents?
Absolutely. So, again, going back to my experience, I helped train a lot of the Democratic aides, some of whom are now members. I worked with a lot of the Republican aides, some of whom are now members. And so I come in with a leg up, having already built those relationships over the years, being able to have those tough conversations. And one of the things they know about me is that my yes is yes.
Hey Malik, hold on one second. You just said that you worked with a lot of aides who are now members,
Yes.
both Democrats and Republicans. Could
Yes.
you all possibly be the next wave of lawmakers who recognize the humanness
Mhm.
of this person that I'm engaging with, and that we are here to serve the people that put us here? Could this be a wave of lawmakers who might be able to work together,
I
regardless to
believe
whether it's
so.
R or D?
I believe so. Because one of the things that you learn as a staffer is that your members' politics may not necessarily be yours, and you have to be able to work across the aisle and work with people. Because at the end of the day, usually you all are young, starting off in your careers. You're trying to network and help each other. You're at the same events, and so you start to build relationships with people. One of the things I did when I was a staffer, I found out a lot of people like cigars, and so I started a cigar caucus where members are on the floor at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So we'll go outside and we'll have a cigar, but we'll talk and we'll get to know each other on a personal level. And that devolved into talking about policy. And because we had that personal connection, we were able to kill policy. We were able to get amendments done because that staffer went back and talked to their member and said, "Hey, we've heard this idea. We think that we should adjust this," and we've been able to see things move. And that's the experience and that's the relationships that I think are going to make a difference in this race. Even this delegation, for example, there's only one Democrat in our local delegation. So even on the local level, you have to be able to work across the aisle and be able to have that respect. And I've worked with these members before; they know me. And one thing that I think this experience allows is that I can work across the aisle without giving up or compromising my principles and values. I can work across the aisle and get things done on a bipartisan way that is good and positive for the district, but that does not, impugn my values and the things that the people that sent me there and their intentions and their wants and desires. And I think that balance is important.
Malik Moore is a candidate for Florida State Representative, House State Representative, District 21. We are thrilled to have him here this morning so that you can get to know Malik. And you mentioned about your constituents and working to make sure that you're representing them. So win or lose, Malik, how do you plan to stay connected with your district after the election? Whether you win or lose, all of the things that you talked about are still things that need to be done. Do you have a
Absolutely.
plan to stay engaged, or Once the election is over, I didn't win, so I'm going to just go back to the cigar bar.
No, no. I'm going to do the things I've always been doing. I serve on boards and volunteer that way. I volunteer with the Star Center Theater. I'm active in my church. I'm at just about every community event that I can be at. And because, like I said, I didn't just jump into this race in happenstance. I haven't I'm not new to service, and so I've been doing this work without the title for a long time, and so that's not going to stop. If you are truly about people and about public service and about making a difference, you don't need a title to do that. I haven't needed one before, and so if for some reason this does not work out in my favor, that doesn't stop the work. It doesn't stop the mission.
Malik, knowing that if you were elected, all the Democrats in Florida could stay home and they could still get legislation passed.
Mhm.
What gives you the courage, Malik, to one, run, win, and then walk through the doors of the chambers knowing that the odds, the numbers are against you?
So I feel called to this work. I feel called to the work of politics. I always have. There's an old hymn that we used to sing in church that says, "Charge to keep I have," and that has become the soundtrack of my life and of this campaign. I truly believe it is a charge. But more than that, I also stand on the shoulders of people whose personal stories and personal experiences impact me and have inspired me and guided me. The fact that my grandfather could not legally vote until he was 30 because that's when the Voting Rights Act passed. When you grow up hearing those type of stories, it makes public policy personal. My grandmother, who, met my grandfather when he was getting ready to go off to the military in Madison County, grew up in poverty and then moved to Alachua County in the late 50s, early 60s, and really made something of their lives and raised a family. When you think about, my family out in Putnam County, who we've been able to trace the lineage from North Carolina all the way down to Putnam County, being brought here as enslaved. You think about those type of stories and those type of experiences, and these aren't fictitious people. These are people you see every day. These are people you grew up talking to. It makes public policy real when you realize that there are people in this very district, people you know personally, who do not have access to broadband technology. Public policy becomes real, and it gives you the type of confidence to be able to walk into the belly of the beast, so to speak, and not be afraid, because number one, that you are there for a divine mission and purpose. But more than that, that there are people who are back in the district who are walking through those doors with you. You're not walking by yourself, and you carry their stories, you carry their desires and their fears, and you make that heard in the Florida Capitol.
Malik Moore on the Good News Report. We appreciate you all watching and sharing this show, and start the conversations about what your plan is going to be to get out and vote, that you are going to make sure that everybody that you know goes to the polls and vote. Early voting starts Friday on the 7th. The election is August, the primary election is August 18th. Malik, as you talk about your leadership, what does servant leadership mean to you, and how will that guide your philosophy and your work in Florida, in the Florida legislature?
So I think servant leadership is number one, someone who will serve without being in leadership. I think it. I think oftentimes we conflate leadership with a title or with a specific position, and that's not what it is. I always say someone who is too big to serve is too small to lead, because you have to be willing to actually be in the community, to be on the ground working. That's what service is, and the leadership does not come with a specific title. It does not come with a specific position. It comes from just really standing up in your community, doing the work, being a helping hand. That's what I was raised to do. Again, I told you I'm from Sugar Hill, and it's the type of neighborhood where when you see your fellow man down, you lift them up. If you see someone struggling, you don't wait to ask if it's your job to help. You just get in and help, and you serve. And that's what I was raised to do. Being a helping hand in the community in any way that you can, and that's what leadership is. because a lot of times just that small act of service, you don't know how it's going to impact someone's life. You don't know who it'll inspire to want to get involved and to do their own service in the community, and that's what true leadership is.
Malik, I know that there is one person who has served without a title, a public office title, who loves and adore you, and that is Miss Angie Terrell. Um, what does that relate? You talked about other seasoned members of the community who look up to you and are handing you the mantle to carry on. What does that mean for you, Malik?
Well, number one, Miss Terrell is one of those people where I don't care what title you have, how important you are, or how important you think you are. If Miss Terrell says do something, that's what you do. You don't say no to Miss Terrell. But it means a lot to have some of those seasoned people in the community, those who have been doing this work and in this fight for a long time, believe in you, support you, want to put their name and their credibility behind you, because these are not people who have not done work, have not been in the community serving. These are people who have raised up generations of people to take on the mantle, and for them to see something in me and feel that I am the best person for this job means a lot. Because a lot of these people have seen me since I was a child. I'm a theater kid. I've been at the Star Center since elementary school, all the way up until I got ready to go off to college. And so these are not people who have not watched my progress and watched me grow. And so that just it means a lot. That to me is the best endorsement you can have, when the elders of the community feel that they feel safe and comfortable enough to push you into the forefront and say that this is the person who can represent us. That means a lot.
Malik, I know that there are more Maliks out there. What are you doing to help bring the other Maliks along with you? Because the reason that we're doing the good news report is because the negative things, we show African American young men in such a negative light. How can you help bring them to the forefront, whether you are elected or not? And then how can you help to change some of the narratives that many of them have bought into? How do you see your role in that?
So I think it goes back to my time even in the legislature, making sure that we were intentional about bringing people not only into the fold as interns, but also we brought up a group of kids who were from undeserved unserved neighborhood, and gave them a tour of the Capitol, showed them how this process works, brought them into the fold so they could meet their legislators, meet the people who make decisions, showing them that there's something outside their community. Number one, giving them that hope and that inspiration that there is more outside of the few blocks that and providing that access and that opportunity. But it was also about making sure that you instill in the people that you bring in that, listen, I'm only here because somebody took a chance on me, and you have to be willing to take a chance on somebody else and bring somebody else in, because the only way that we stop some of the negative rhetoric, or even just the self cynicism that we see in our own community, is that we literally grab hands and bring as many people through the door as we can, because a lot of people just feel the way that they do just simply because they don't see the opportunity for more. They don't see how they can achieve or even access some of the things outside their community. And so, number one, you have to be willing to bring it to them, but also take them out of that and bring them into the whatever that more is, right? And that's why one of my platforms has been that I want to have a youth advisory council, making sure that we bring the youth into the decision making process so that they feel empowered, that they are actually making decisions for their community and for their neighborhoods. And it gives you a boost. You feel like you're a change maker, you feel like you're a leader, and it gives you a different air about yourself, and makes you feel like, I can really do this. There's more outside of what I know and what I've seen in my community.
So Malik, do you ever have how do you deal with any pushback? Because I know it hasn't all been positive.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, it comes with the territory, unfortunately. And you go into it knowing that you're not going to please everyone. You go into it knowing that there are going to be some people that just simply don't like you for whatever reason, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But you can't dwell on it. Again, like I said, I feel called to the work, and calling does not come without struggle. It does not come without its own sets of trials and tribulations. But being willing to see past that and to work through that, because you know that there is more at stake. When you realize that there are people who are genuinely counting on you to make a difference, the naysayers don't really matter, because at the end of the day, I have to be able to come back into my community and tell, Miss Gainey, for example, why I voted the way I did. Talk to the people in the church about why I supported or didn't support something, in the legislature. Those people are not looking for, well, these people were mean to me or they talked about me and I took my bat and went home. They're not looking for that. They're looking for real answers and real results, and there's people counting on you. And when you have that type of mentality and you have that at the forefront of your mind, the negative kind of just goes away.
The issue of education,
Hmm.
and what is happening with our school systems continues to be a big priority. What are your priorities for strengthening public education and preparing students for future success?
Well, number one, it comes with fully funding our public education. It means that we are investing in our public schools and our neighborhood schools, making sure that our teachers are and our staff are paid what they deserve, making sure that students have the resources that they need to actually be successful and have access, no matter their zip code, to quality world class public education. It means that we are addressing the shortage not only of teachers but of guidance counselors, so that way that the issues that we're seeing in the classroom that are a spillover from the neighborhood are being addressed. It means that we are making sure that our infrastructure isn't crumbling around our children. Uh, you know, that's what it looks like to me. It means that we are putting in check our voucher system, so that we are not bankrupting public education. And I think I think that's what's important right now, is making sure that every child has access to quality education.
Malik, we could talk another half hour, hour, or longer because there are other things like what's happening with the prison system, what's
Absolutely.
happening with mental health of our children, and how that is addressed or not addressed. Do you have a short answer on that?
Yeah. So when I was a staffer, I did went to 56 prisons doing oversight. So, and I helped write a lot of and pass criminal justice policy. So I know what it takes to do that job, and I know that we need some real change. We need investment in self betterment and educational courses. We need resources so that you can come out of our prisons and actually have the skills you need to get a job. But the resources that you have the documents, ID, birth certificate, things like that. Because a lot of times we're asking people to do the impossible with nothing, and it's not fair to them. And we act surprised when they come back into our prisons because we haven't given them the skills or even just the documentation to be successful. We need to invest in mental health. We need to invest more broadly just in healthcare and in rural healthcare, making sure that we're partnering with local government so that they can turn their community centers into health centers, making sure that we are making workforce development streams so we can get those who are being trained as the next doctors and nurses into our rural communities. We have UF Health right here. Why are we not training those people to go into rural communities? There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and I'm hoping and ready to do that on day one.
What is it that you would like for the voters in District 21 to know before they cast their ballot, whether they are voting early, which starts the 7th,
Yes.
tomorrow,
Hmm.
and then the election is August 18th.
Yep.
So again, I urge all of you to look at why you ought to vote. And the number one reason is because that is your voice and you're voting for your future. So Malik, what is it that you would like for voters in District 21 to know before they cast their ballot?
That I'm from this community. I'm a son of this community. I've lived the experience and the struggles that you have. I'm not a stranger to what it means to be from District 21. But more than that, I went to Tallahassee and passed policy that actually makes a difference. passed policy that people can actually feel that had a tangible impact on their lives. And I want to bring that experience back to the community that raised me, that poured into me. This campaign is rooted in a single value that was instilled in me by my grandmother, that when you see your fellow man down, you lift them up. And that's what this campaign is about. It's about lifting up people. It's about creating a state that lifts up people, a district that lifts up people. And that takes all of us. This is not a Malik Moore campaign. This is an us campaign. That's why we say more for Florida and more for us, because I truly believe that more is possible to District 21. And I hope that you'll join on this team and help us provide that for this district.
Malik, thank you so much for being here. But before you leave, I'd like to do a have a little fun.
Okay.
We're gonna do a round. We're gonna do a lightning round. How about that?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
are you a morning person or a night person?
Night person.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What is your favorite local restaurant or hidden gem in District 21?
I have two. It's either Goldie's Burgers in Depot Park or M&D West African Cuisine.
What's your favorite Florida destination?
St. Augustine.
Favorite book or author?
Probably Ibram X. Kendi.
Ah, The Art of Forgiveness and Pamela Marshall.
Yeah.
How you miss that?
I'm sorry. Can I have two favorites?
What is a hobby that people might be surprised to learn that you enjoy?
Fishing. I like fishing.
Really? Really?
Yes.
Hey, Malik, if you could have dinner with one historical figure, who might that be?
Um, hmm, that's hard. Probably Frederick Douglass,
Why is that?
because I think he was the forerunner for public policy for the Black community, being able to go into like the White House and actually change things in the course of history. I want to see what that was like in his time.
What word, in one word, how do you hope your constituents would describe your leadership?
Servant,
Servant. Complete this sentence for us, Malik. Hope is
not lost.
hope is not lost. Wow, that's great. Great way to bring this all together. Hope is not lost because there are things that are happening. And if you watch the news, you might feel like hope is lost. But Malik has given us a gem there. Hope is not lost. Malik Moore, I know that you have many miles to go before you sleep. May you enjoy your cup of Java, whatever it is. You'll have to get you a Peace Takes Practice cup. Can you see that?
Okay, definitely.
Peace Peace Takes Practice with my lipstick on it. That looks fresh. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for taking the opportunity to get to know the people who are on the ballot so that you can make informed decisions, so that you can feel proud of what you're doing in exercising your right to vote. Early voting, and if you're concerned about where you are with your voting status, you can go to vote 411.org. Just put your address in, see if your precinct has changed. But in early voting, if you go and do it during early voting, those kind of things can be addressed. But on the day of the election, it cannot be addressed. The election is the 18th of August. Again, thank you all so much for joining us for the Good News Report, where we believe that there's some good news in every community. And by the way, I am going to encourage you today. Go be the good news in someone else's life. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Broadcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Thank you, Malik.